If someone damaged you on purpose, I want you to hear me clearly. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a decision, and decisions have meaning. A person who chooses to break you with intention isn't confused. They hate you deeply, and they want you to feel it. Now, the real question isn't about why they did it. The real question is, what will you do about it? When someone causes intentional harm, it reveals far more than just a moment of cruelty. It exposes a deeper psychological state, contempt. Contempt is not just anger or dislike. It's the belief that the other person is beneath consideration, unworthy of empathy, or even less than human. And once that belief takes root in someone's heart and mind, it becomes fertile ground for destructive behavior. People don't damage others intentionally unless they've first stripped them of value in their internal framework. That's why intentional harm is one of the clearest signs of deep-seated hatred. To intentionally harm someone, a person must go through a process of mental justification. They don't just act, they rationalize the act beforehand. They tell themselves stories. They deserved it. They're weak. They'll never change. They brought this on themselves. These internal narratives are not innocent. They're weapons crafted in thought before they ever strike in reality. And what fuels these narratives is contempt, a cold dismissal of another person's dignity and worth. Anger might come and go, but contempt lingers. It festers. It builds a narrative of superiority in which the other person becomes a target for humiliation or destruction. This mindset is fundamentally dangerous because it severs the ties of human empathy. When you no longer see someone as worthy of compassion or understanding, it becomes far easier to justify doing them harm. That harm might be verbal, psychological, reputational, or even physical, but in every form, it is rooted in the same seed. The person has been devalued in the mind of the attacker. They are seen not just as flawed, but as deserving of pain. That is the logic of contempt. And here's what's most terrifying about it. It can be masked. Contempt doesn't always look like rage or open hostility. Sometimes it comes dressed as passive aggression, silence, sabotage, or false concern. A person who secretly loathes you might still smile to your face, but their actions will tell the truth. The manipulation, the subtle cruelty, the sabotage behind the scenes, those are signs of a deeper moral rot. Because contempt doesn't always seek justice, it seeks destruction. And it doesn't necessarily want to be caught. It wants to harm while remaining untouchable. When someone has reached that place where they can willfully cause damage and still sleep at night, you're not dealing with a momentary lapse in judgment. You're dealing with a conscious decision to harm. And that decision doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's built on a foundation of contempt, layer by layer, thought by thought. By the time the damage is done, the person doing it has already convinced themselves that you deserved to be broken. Intentional harm is not a random event. It's a reflection of how someone truly sees you, or rather, how they don't. And once someone's contempt has reached that depth, it's a sign that you're not safe in their presence because they've already decided you're not worth protecting. Manipulation is one of the most deceptive and damaging forms of betrayal because it is rarely impulsive. It is carefully thought out, layered in false kindness or emotional games, and designed to benefit the manipulator at the expense of someone else's clarity, security, or trust. What makes manipulation so insidious is not just that it causes harm, but that it is often carried out under the illusion of connection, affection, or even loyalty. That illusion is the trap. Behind it lies premeditated betrayal, the choice to deceive someone for selfish gain. To manipulate someone is to treat them as a means rather than an end. It's to view their feelings, choices, and vulnerabilities not as things to respect, but as levers to pull. The manipulator studies your patterns. They listen not to understand, but to exploit. They observe what moves you, what makes you hesitate, what you fear losing. And then they construct a plan to push those emotional buttons. That kind of strategy is not accidental. It's calculated. It takes time, effort, and most importantly, a willingness to violate the moral boundary that separates influence from control. Manipulation starts small. It often begins with subtle distortions of reality, gaslighting, guilt tripping, selective honesty, or emotionally loaded silence. The manipulator tests the waters, watching how far they can go. And if there's no resistance, if the target begins to doubt themselves, they go deeper. Each act builds on the last. The victim starts to lose their sense of independence. Decisions become harder. Self-trust erodes. And through it all, the manipulator maintains their mask of concern, love, friendship, or authority. That mask is essential. Without it, the manipulation would be obvious. But with it, the betrayal is hidden and therefore more devastating. The reason manipulation qualifies as betrayal is because it violates an unspoken agreement in human relationships, the expectation of honesty, or at the very least, transparency. When someone pretends to support you while secretly steering you for their own advantage, they are breaking that bond. And they know it. They may justify it to themselves, I'm doing this for their own good, or they wouldn't understand if I told them the truth. But those are just excuses. Deep down, they understand that manipulation involves choice. It's not something that just happens. It requires intention, and that intention makes it personal. There's an arrogance in manipulation, a belief that the other person is too naive to notice or too weak to resist. That arrogance is often what eventually exposes the manipulator. But by the time the truth comes out, damage has usually already been done. Trust is broken. The manipulated person is left questioning not just the manipulator's motives, but their own judgment. That internal fallout, the self-doubt, the guilt, the emotional confusion is often worse than the initial act. Manipulation at its core is a betrayal of reality. It replaces truth with control, respect with strategy, and intimacy with advantage. It is betrayal not just of another person's trust, but of the very idea that relationships should be based on mutual respect and truth. And when someone manipulates you, they are not just lying to you, they are deciding that your autonomy is theirs to use. When someone truly harbors ill intent toward you, they don't waste time attacking what's superficial. They go straight for the core. What you love, what you've built, what defines you. They target what you value most because they understand, either consciously or instinctively, that the greatest damage is done not by physical force, but by emotional precision. This is not a random act of cruelty. It's an intentional effort to unmake you from the inside out. And that's what makes it so destructive. People who act from hate or deep resentment know that to hurt you effectively, they must strike at the things that give your life meaning. That could be your family, your career, your sense of purpose, your faith, or your self-respect. They look for what anchors you, and then they chip away at it. Not because it's easy, but because it's effective. It destabilizes you. It throws you into a state of doubt, confusion, or despair. And that's the goal. They don't want to just wound you. They want to unravel you. This kind of attack is often strategic and emotional. If you value loyalty, they betray you. If you value honesty, they lie convincingly. If you value reputation, they smear it. And often, they don't do it loudly. They operate in shadows through whispers, small actions, and subtle sabotage. They understand that if they can get to what you care about most, they don't need to scream or lash out. They just need to touch the right nerve. The psychological impact of this kind of targeting is profound. It forces you to question your own values. You may begin to wonder, why did I care so much? Was I too vulnerable? Should I stop trusting people? These are natural reactions, but they're also part of the damage. The attacker wants you to not only suffer the loss of what you love, they want you to lose your belief in loving anything at all. That's when they win. The most chilling part is that this tactic often comes from people who are or were close to you. Strangers don't usually have access to your most valued areas of life, but those who know you intimately, who have seen what you cherish, are in the perfect position to exploit it.